Infinite ammo.
Greetings, ladies and gentle monsters. I am your host, not really, the Squatting Bull, the legend, the god. I'm here with these fabulous mofos for this discussion on Deep Down, or Deep Shit, whichever you prefer. Dominic, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right, first of all, did you just say deep shit?
No.
You fucking liar. Second of all, yeah, I'm Devil Dom. Yeah, I can't wait to get into this doc because I have quite a bit to say about that. So, yeah. Aside from that, it's deep vaporware, right? Or vapor down. I don't know.
Deep something. Deep never happened.
Deep. We're never gonna come out with it. We do it, right? We do it, just like Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah, if you
Too
want
soon?
that remake, you're gonna be a skeleton.
Too soon.
Oh my god.
Too soon. Anyway, guess we should get the next person out of the way. Dave Bridger, go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's going on, guys? It's been a while. Looking forward to this. Been a while. We've been putting this off for weren't we supposed to do this like last year?
Last week, I think. Well, we were supposed to do it last year, but then it got back into rotation, so we were supposed to do it last week. So we're finally getting to it. But this game has still been dead, so it really just shows that Capcom hasn't put out any news since 2015. So it's been quite sad. But yeah.
Yeah, so looking forward to just kind of talking about this briefly.
All right, and I guess are you going, Brandon, or me? Me?
Oh, you go.
All right, so I am Renegade Operative. This game has been pretty dead as far as content goes, updates, which is disappointing because the gameplay looks kind of interesting. I'm not going to lie, but I'll get into that in the document later.
Okay, James, introduce yourself. Oh, wait, you can't.
He's
here.
He's in the sewer, jacking off to some fox girl. Who knows?
All right. And of course, you know me as Squad and Bull. No. So, why don't we move on to Doc? Who wants to read them? What will be question number one?
Do you mind if I go for the first one? Because I have an interesting story about that one.
Be my guess.
All right. Describe your initial impressions on Deep Down from the first time you saw it all the way up to present day. Do you still have any hope for this non-existent title? So when I first saw this game, I shit you not, I was in high school. Because if I remember right, it got announced at like 2012, 2013. I just remember I was a junior in high school by the time this game was officially revealed. And when I finally saw it, I was like, okay, the game looks nice, but this isn't really something that would be up my alley. And this was before I started playing stuff like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and what have you. So it just wasn't something that really piqued my personal interest. But I did really like the way that the game looked from a visual standpoint, and I still stand by that. I really think that Panther Ray, just as an engine, really looks nice. It looks like a step up from MT Framework, and that's a question later in the doc that I see. So it'll definitely be something to talk about. Comparing the two engines and whatnot, or at least talking about the two engines. But for the most part, do I have any hopes for it at this point? Not really. And that's just mostly because of the fact that Capcom hasn't done shit with it. It's basically been dead for a really long time. I mean, they had like chances to renew the license to the IP before they lost out on it, and they had to do something with it, and they still didn't do anything with it. It was like, well, what the hell are you doing? So maybe if it does come back somehow, it might have a different like maybe it'll have a subtitle or something. Who knows?
Deep down, back from the dead.
Yeah, back from the dead.
Yeah, I guess I could go next real quick. When I first saw the title, honestly, I don't remember. I just think I saw it randomly on YouTube. As far as any hopes, to be quite honest with you, no, not really. Because this game had like no news since the year it was like announced, or the year after it was announced, and yeah, nothing since then. So I have no hope. This game became The Last Jedi, to be quite honest, but no, that's a different story. Please, someone else go.
I think when I initially heard about Deep Down, it was right around the time when Dark Souls 3 was in development, and the information had already come out that Dark Souls 3 was going to be the last of the Dark Souls series, not necessarily of the genre, but at least of the Dark Souls named games. And so a lot of people were saying that Sega was going to step in with Deep Down. Deep Down was going to be, as we see so much in gaming media now, that people just compare things to Dark Souls. That basically Deep Down was going to be the response to Dark Souls. And from the gameplay that I've seen, I don't necessarily get a Dark Souls vibe. I get, strangely enough, a more roguelike vibe. So things like Fatal Labyrinth, old school Genesis title, or for more recent, like Rogue Legacy. So things where there's going to be dungeons that are randomly generated. At least that's the impression I got from the gameplay footage that's available to us. As for having hopes that the game resurfaces or something, I would like it to. It would definitely be something nice to see that Sega does something other than Sonic. Or as much as I love Yakuza. Oh,
it's Capcom.
Oh, it's Capcom. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. God.
That's how, well, it's been dead, so I mean, like, it goes to show you don't even know who's fucking making it. Like,
well, but okay, so let me rephrase. Still, I would like Sega to do other stuff other than Sonic, because that's been hit and miss, but that's beside the point. With Capcom, like, they really don't stray too far from the things that they know. It's either like a new Resident Evil, all these rumors about Devil May Cry, things like that. So I would really have liked to see them do something different. And I think I said Sega earlier, didn't I, when I was talking about that it was going to be the response? Yeah, okay, so my bad. Capcom. Ugh. Shows how little I've kept up with it. But, when there's no news, do you blame me? But I still would like something. If they still have any intention of making it, because it could just be one of those things that they tried it, they didn't think it was going to go anywhere, and they just put it up on the shelf.
Okay, so I'm going to go real quick. I saw this game like as soon as I was finished being a senior of high school, and that's about it. Like, afterwards, I didn't hear any information. It looked very interesting because there's not many like good dungeon crawlers out there, like, in my opinion, that could really hold up the fact that yes, we have like 4-player co-op, yes, we have all these interesting features, and the graphical engine for Deep Down looked very impressive. Like, Panta Ray was going to be like the next big thing, and I think that would have been a great successor had we seen it more in action from MT Framework. I think that would have been really good to show off what types of games was going to lead into the future when it came to Capcom products. But overall, I did enjoy the trailers of Deep Down. The gameplay looked very satisfying in my opinion. I think that early on it did need like a lot of work in some areas because there was stuff like, slow down, things of that nature, but that happens with like pre-alpha gameplay. I just think that what happened was, after a while, Capcom probably moved on to other things, because now it's like Monster Hunter seems to be the rave and Deep Down seems to be still in the dust. So hopefully, I hope this game comes back in the future, but in my opinion, I don't have any like high expectations because of how quiet Capcom has been about it so far. So that's my experience. Like, I was a senior in high school, I enjoyed the trailer, and then afterwards, it was nothing. I think by that point, Capcom started putting out, like, more Resident Evil titles than anything, so I just migrated my interest to there.
Right.
So I guess we can move on to the next one?
Yep. Unless if Brandon... Wait, did Brandon go?
I
Or...
already went already.
Yeah,
I didn't
he
have
did.
much to say on this one.
Okay. Yeah, you
So
wanna...
everyone read number 2.
I can do it. Considering how this game is currently in development limbo, do you think Capcom will surprise us with any updates on this title after Monster Hunter World? I kind of gave my brief thoughts, but I said, you know, my expectations are not high because Capcom seems to be that company that focuses on one particular IP and that's it. It really took them a long time for them to announce a new Mega Man game. I remember in the Mega Man trailer, like, they actually mocked this because when we hit, like, 2010 and there was no Mega Man games for, like, a decade, that was really surprising to me that it was really that disappointing that they went to show that, yes, we focus on other IPs that might be Street Fighter or Resident Evil or Monster Hunter, but other games, it really takes them a long time to get them off the ground, which is something we covered in the past a lot of times already.
Right. Are you still going or?
No, I'm done.
Oh, okay. I want to actually kind of pick up from that because, the one thing like in that sense too, it's like, yeah, you know, they focus on the norm, like, oh, Resident Evil, you know, whether it be Marvel, Street Fighter, or Monster Hunter, and you know, I've always said that it's not so much the issue of, you know, Capcom doing like new games for those franchises, but it's more so that they don't take a little bit of a break from those three and go to other things. And it doesn't have to be like some of these franchises, like, you know, Monster Hunter or Street Fighter or whatever, they don't have to have like this ridiculously long break. Whereas like something like Resident Evil, I've always said that, like, you know, at least 5 to 10 years, if not a little bit more of a break needs to be done because there's so many different issues with that franchise from both a lore standpoint and also even a gameplay standpoint. But that's neither here or there when it comes to this particular discussion. So when it comes to like something like Deep Down and it being in like development hell, and the next question is going to lead into this as well, but like, you know, it's so into development hell, Capcom hasn't even really said anything about the new engine, to the point where, you know, when we saw Monster Hunter World get announced, you know, I think I said this during our E3, was it E3 reactions? I don't remember.
I think it was revealed at E3.
Yeah, because I think I said in particular when Monster Hunter World came out, I was like, okay, yeah, I recognize that it was Monster Hunter. And I said, yeah, you know, that's great. Monster Hunter looks great and it's coming to another platform. Cool and all, but, you know, it's still Monster Hunter. And also something that just really bugged me was that they're using MT Framework after they said they wouldn't be using it anymore because they would be using Pantaray. And, you know, again, we'll get into that with the next question, but it just kind of goes to show you that Deep Down has been in such a development hell, you know, such a development limbo, if you will, that even the engine is just kind of like been completely forgotten, you know, when it comes to like updates on other titles, you know.
Yeah, that's really weird. Like, it goes into the next one, but it's really weird how Capcom like poured all that money into the development demos and the tech and all that, and it seems very absent. It's like really freaky.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll get it more into it when we get to number 3 because there's more to it than just MT Framework and Pantaray, in my opinion, when it comes to number 3. But I will get to that when we transition over to that. But as far as like how that's considered. I mean, like, if we haven't seen it at this point, I really don't think we will. I think, like, if anything, you'll see the next big Monster Hunter DLC update, you know, before you'll see anything from fucking Deep Down. Like, if you want my honest opinion.
I have a side question. I have a side question really quickly. What do you guys think that if they bring it back, that people will still be excited?
Probably
yeah.
Not, in my opinion. Probably not.
I
go ahead.
I was gonna say I disagree, but I'll let you finish.
I'm saying, like, it's been nerfed for so long, I doubt people would be, like, extremely hyped like they were when they first saw it. To be quite honest.
I can kind of see that point, but if the gameplay is still something that could be salvaged, I think people would be into it. Granted, it has been a long time, so obviously things have changed from all the way back to 2012 from now to 2018. So I think that there needs to be some sort of overhaul or some sort of consistent update to keep people interested and in the know.
Right. I was gonna say that I disagree, and I think that people would be interested, especially if there was like
Okay, do a correction. I didn't say nobody would be interested. I said it would be as hype as it were back when it was announced.
I did say more interested, not interested. Just, you know, just to clarify any confusion. But when it comes to say like a new trailer, right? Because we've had so little on it. I think if they did like an actual gameplay trailer, maybe showing off like the co-op aspects of the game, showing off different things that you could do instead of doing mostly pre-rendered stuff that they had done in the past, and just kind of focus on that, and then maybe also announce like an open or closed beta of sorts for people to try out, so that way they know, like, hey, you know, there's a way to play this game, so that way you can see if you like it or not. I think that would definitely pique some sort of interest.
I agree, because I mean, Monster Hunter had like 3 betas, so come on, you got to give us something. So anyone else want to touch upon this topic, or?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue I'm seeing right now with Monster Hunter World is I don't think a lot of people realize how big Monster Hunter World actually is, because it has been a really, really long time since there's been a console version of Monster Hunter, except for the Nintendo ones. Like, I think there was one on Wii U, but I don't think it got released here. I think a lot of the ones that got released...
3 and 3 Ultimate, and yeah, that was
3 Ultimate. There. Yeah, okay. So 3 Ultimate was like the last big console Monster Hunter. Of course, Monster Hunter has stuck on the handhelds. So I think in the wake of Monster Hunter World being released, I think Capcom's focus is going to be too much on that to really give us anything with Deep Down, and I think the timing wouldn't be right. I would definitely see maybe if not late this year, maybe into next year, maybe when some of the Monster Hunter World hype has dwindled down, that they could maybe start promoting it. But like, I don't see it happening in the wake of Monster Hunter World, just because I think Capcom fans are going to be focused more on Monster Hunter World than anything else that Capcom is going to be bringing to the plate. So I would definitely say that people who were interested in the original project might still be trying to keep tabs on it, and, you know, if there was information released, of course that they would be excited, and we'd probably see it show up on various gaming media platforms. But I would say that it would be something to be wary about, because you look at games that go into development hell for years and years and years, and prime example that always comes to my head is Duke Nukem Forever. I mean, there were such issues with that development cycle. You know, 13 years after Duke Nukem 3D was released, that they wanted this game, and fans were just not happy with the final product because of all the development handoffs and trade-offs it did. Now, Deep Down necessarily hasn't reached that point to where it's being pushed off to other developers, but it could be something that could happen, as well as what we've seen now, much like in the case of what originally I forget his name, the guy who does Suda 51. He had a game planned that went into Let It Die. There was supposed to be a game before, and I have to say it, but the trailer for the game of what the original project was going to be, that to me was more hype than what the final product was. So I think it would be something that fans should be wary about, because everything that we have available to us for Deep Down could potentially change. Oh yeah, and the John Cena thing. Yeah, I nuke him. Yes.
Oh god.
I am being held at gunpoint to go see that movie with my friends. So.
Oh, you sorry soul.
That's another roast for another day. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Are we done with this question?
I think so.
Yeah.
We can move on to the next one. So who
Wait,
wants to
what about
read?
James' input?
He's dead right now, sir.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, let's move to number 3. I'll read number 3 if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Go.
What are your thoughts on Capcom's engine for Deep Down called Phantom Ray, which is might replace MT Frameworks, which it hasn't, by the way. But just to give my brief summary on the thoughts of it. Honestly, though, Phantom Ray looked good, really good, honestly. But Capcom said that there was problems with the engine, was it? So that way they couldn't. That's why they didn't go along with it. They had to debug it even more. I don't remember the exact reason why, but I think you guys might know better than I could do.
On the subject of that, I had heard something along the lines of that there were some issues with how that engine had been handled, and how it was just not really working well, even with the most experienced of developers. It's not that it was impossible to develop with, it was just that it had a lot of technical limitations because of some of the things that they had implemented into that engine. And I don't know the specifics of it, but that could be accurate to some degree.
I would say if it was tech issues, that could have been the downfall, because I believe for an engine to be successful, it has to be good, it has to run well, and it has to be open source, because we see the stuff going on with Kojima and Guerrilla Games with the collaboration they're doing with Decima, and that turned out to work really well. If it didn't work out here, then I could see why Capcom stuck to their guns and said, you know what, we know MT Framework inside out, we know what it can do, what it can't do, so let's implement this further into a game that we trust a lot of people will like, which is Monster Hunter World. So
I do want to cut you off here really quick. The flaw with that particular point is that while they did that with Monster Hunter World, you also have to remember that they used 3 different engines over that period of time, while Deep Down was just kind of absent. They did Unity 5 with Umbrella Corps, they did Unreal 4 for their recent fighting games, and with Resident Evil they switched to the Resident Evil engine, and now with Monster Hunter it's MT Framework. So there are multiple different engines being used, right? And it's not concrete as to what they're trying to do. Like it seems like even though they went back to their guns with MT Framework on Monster Hunter, right? At least in the case of some of these other games, it just seems like they were like, okay, well, maybe we could try this engine, maybe we could try this engine, maybe we'll try just building a whole new engine altogether again and see how that works and see what really sticks. If I remember right, too, they were saying that maybe they would use the Resident Evil engine and just make variations per franchise as well. But I'm not sure if that was an accurate statement or not. So don't quote me on that, at least. But if I'm not mistaken, that is something that they were considering at one point.
I think it probably just boiled down to the team trying to experiment with different things, because Capcom R&D is like mostly all different people in certain sectors. So they were probably trying to do one thing with like Resident Evil, another thing with like Monster Hunter, and do something else with Umbrella Cancer. So I think that moving forward, they definitely wanted this new engine to replace this old model, because they said this in their statements. So I think that what happened was, when it didn't work out, and for their next biggest game, they decided to say, well, I think it's better to play it safe than sorry. That's probably why they went back to MT framework. Because they have like years of experience, they know it well, so they decided to just play it safe.
Right. But, that, again, still doesn't really answer the question of the other engines being used for these other projects.
As I said, it could be the other teams like experimenting on what works and what doesn't. And
Right.
obviously, like the Unity engine for Umbrella Cancer, it outside of just the games they already announced, they didn't stick with that one.
Yeah.
Not only that, though, not all engines work the same. Like, for example, like I mentioned, Pantoray, I heard there were like problems with this engine, where like graphical glitches or anything of that matter, versus like the RE engine, though the party has some help making that one. Like all engines are different from one another, so we don't know for certain why they got rid of Pantoray.
The thing with like, say like Unity 5, although an argument against that and Umbrella Corps was that like you can clearly tell that fucking Umbrella Corps was rushed, and that it was not made like it doesn't feel like it was tested or played by anybody prior. They just kind of just shouted out, and they were like, "Here, anyone can play it now for a price."
Oh, that was a bad idea.
Yeah. At least, and in the cases of like, say, Unreal 4, right? A little bit different in the sense that they had again different division, like you guys are saying, but also something too is that like at the very least with something like Street Fighter or MVC, they probably put more time into the development compared to Umbrella Corps, probably, but how much is debatable. And then obviously the Resident Evil engine being something that they, if they did have help, they did still have to make it from the ground up to some degree. So it only just depends on how much of that.
Yeah, I just think they're looking for like ease of use, if anything, because that's what you want with a critical game engine. You want it to work whenever you make a new title, and you want to make it convenient if you have multiple divisions.
Right. I do want to ask a side question before the next person goes. In the case of like, say hypothetically, they decided to just completely scrap Pantoray, maybe they'll stick with MT, but they'll also make like a variation of the Resident Evil engine, just rename it to something else, kind of like how Bethesda was doing for some of their recent titles with like, is it id Tech or
id Tech 5 for Doom.
Yeah, they were using like well, I thought Doom was id Tech 6, but
oh yeah, I'm thinking of Evil Within. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
Evil Within, yeah.
Where they use id Tech, but they just divide it up and call it a different thing depending on whichever team is using that engine for. Like in that case, Tango Gameworks doing Evil Within, so they call it the STEM engine, as opposed to what id Tech would be calling it, right? So, so that sort of thing. Like, do you think that Capcom could potentially do something like that with the Resident Evil engine?
Depends. Like no, like I said though, it depends on the engine and how it's made. If it's designed for like more linear style, well not linear, but no more style catered towards Resident Evil, for example, then maybe. Yeah, that's a big maybe.
I think maybe they'll make a side engine that's catered towards maybe like more open world games like this, because obviously if you make an engine you have different features for different things. Like I said once before, it all goes back to the ease of use and what's convenient for what function. So I think maybe they'll make an open world branch with that engine.
Yeah, because that's assuming that Resident Evil engine can handle open world games. Because I just want to reiterate, all engines are different. Not all of them can handle the same type of function.
Yeah.
Right, and it's only been used for one game as of making this particular discussion. So
Yeah.
with that particular engine, at least it's a wait and see kind of affair. I guess the question could be extended to also MT Framework, where obviously they have used it for other Capcom titles, but maybe making variations of it specific for certain things, like a Deep Down or like a new Monster Hunter or whatever the case may be, instead of just using Pantaray, which is kind of unfortunate to see it go. But if it means actually getting games and focus of quality, then I think that's for the better.
Yeah, sometimes people have to take the risk. Any thoughts, Daybreaker?
No, I think you guys pretty much covered everything I was thinking.
All right, I think we can move on to question number 4. So who wants to read that?
I can go ahead and read it.
All right.
So, how do you feel about Deep Down's difficulty supposedly being lower in comparison to harder RPGs like Dark Souls or Neo, for instance? This is probably the first I've heard of that. So, it's not necessarily a bad thing per se. It really just depends on who their target audience was. I know that sometimes that argument can be made when it comes to the difficulty of games. And then, of course, if the game's too hard, people will say, well, why isn't there an easy mode? Or if the game's too easy, people will be like, well, why isn't there a harder mode? So I think probably what would have been smart would be to cover all bases and have different difficulty options. Maybe one that, or like a game mode or something that adds more enemies or makes the dungeons more filled with traps, or something that maybe you could even tweak to where it's like, oh, I want a little bit more challenge in this area with like more combat, but I don't want as many like booby trapped chests or dart walls and things like that. So
like modifiers,
difficulty, right?
Yeah. So something kind of in the extent of modifiers could work in that, to just to cover all bases. I think that would be my approach if I were to be in game designing or had any say in what a game designing company does, would be to try to make a broad scope of different ranges and levels of difficulty. So you have the casual players, for example, that can still enjoy the game for what it is, but then you have those players who want that challenge and want to push their skills and everything to the limits.
Well, my stance is that difficulty, yeah, sure, not a big deal. My concern is the balancing, because the biggest problem I have with both Neo and Souls games is defense, because your defense practically doesn't matter once you get on higher difficulties. Regardless, you can have like the best divine weapon, divine armor. You still can get two-shotted by practically anything, or you still can take significant damage from anything if you're not careful. So that's something I want them to take in consideration. Is the balancing around your armor, your weapons, the enemies, etc. Because that kind of contributes to its difficulty in the other Souls-like games.
I think as far as like balancing is very key too, because that's one of the things, like even in like Neo, which Neo generally feels like you do progress in some sort of like level, as far as like if you were to get to like level 250, you do feel like your character has leveled up to some degree and gotten more stronger, whereas Souls, it just kind of Well, it does, but not as it doesn't make as big of an impact as it does in Neo by comparison. However, I would also say too, like, doesn't need to be extremely difficult, and I don't think so. I think what they could do is just pull a page from like something like say like Resident Evil 4 and just have adaptive difficulty. So, and then also just going off of what Daybreaker said as well, maybe add in modifiers for anybody that would like to make it harder, because it is supposed to be an RPG. So why not have that challenge of making things like all odds against you, and if you can get through it, then you get rewarded plenty. But I do think like something like an adaptive difficulty would be interesting, I guess. What do you guys think about that?
I think that would be cool. You know, if you're really good at the game, then the game gets harder. But if you are really like, you know, a novice and you don't know what you're doing, then it kind of helps the player out just a little bit. I think that would be the best, because I can only take so much artificial difficulty where the game just turns into random bullshit, and things happen for like zero reason. You get two-shotted, all this stuff. So I would rather have it be challenging and fair than be hard and bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone else want to chime in?
I don't know. I already said my piece. You guys know what you know. So
That's cool. I guess we can move on to the next one if we're done. So I'll read number. I'll read number 5. The game is supposedly still in development hell, but the scope has broadened to be completely different to what Capcom has shown. The appeal of the game is now meant to bring in a wider range of new players. How do you feel about this statement? Personally, I don't mind the game trying to appeal and cater to an audience, unless, of course, they dumb the game down to significant levels. I wouldn't want that, but still, reaching out to people, that's really the best intentions if they change the game for the better. I'm hoping that if they do show more gameplay, then it definitely is a leg up compared to how they showed their previous presentations, which was not bad, but I think they could always add more to the table.
I think it depends really on who they're trying to cater to. And how much they're trying to, like, who are they trying to appeal to, right? Because, like, yeah, they could say, like, well, we're just trying to appeal to the general RPG masses. Okay, well, look at how many RPGs are out there, right? So it's like,
yeah,
are they, like, it's not bad, but it's like, how far do they want to, you know, have that broad appeal per se? I guess also too is like something to take into consideration is that like they're not, and this is something they had a problem with some of the Resident Evil titles, is where they tried to cater to everybody but ended up catering to nobody, and that could also lead into an issue. It could be, you know, and maybe I'm just overthinking it, but there's also the possibility where it's a lot more narrow, and maybe they just want to cater to something like, what is it? What is the name of that franchise? It is, it's another Capcom franchise, and Brandon, you just told me about this morning, and you were like, hey, it's on fucking sale. You should get it.
Dragon's Dogma?
Dragon's Dogma, yeah. Like, they could turn around and they could be like, well, why don't we try to cater to, like, Dragon's Dogma fans, right? Or maybe we could do, like, some cross-promotion with, like, Monster Hunter. So, like, maybe they'll do, like, Monster Hunter World DLC, like, free DLC, where you can dress your character or your little cat as one of the, like, armored knights from Deep Down, just to kind of help promote it, you know?
I mean, they did it with Metal Gear, so it's not without outside the realms of possibility.
Yeah. So, like,
Assassin's Creed.
I mean, one of the Monster Hunter games had like a Yu-Gi-Oh Yu-Gi-Oh free DLC where you can dress the cat up as the little dark magician, which it's like, yeah, they can do it. It's just a matter of, is that the route that they want to go to? So it really just, I think it really depends on how far of this range we're talking about.
I'm thinking like the best course of action is to appeal and put out more of the game first with these changes, because right now nobody knows what changes they are talking about or referring to, other than the fact that the game is going to be a bit different from the initial concepts, which is fine, but I hope there's still some sort of semblance of what the game used to be, because I mean that's how Deep Down started. It started off as a concept of something. But I hope they don't dumb the gameplay down or cater to a crowd where it doesn't help anybody, because I think if they try to be something like, oh well, Neo was successful, so let's make the game ultra hard with no endearing qualities, I think that's going to hurt the game in the long run. But I hope they don't like say, well, this game, people, they think that everything is the Dark Souls of everything, so we have to go and appeal to casuals, which would bring down the challenge. So they need to find a nice balance of what makes a game good with the RPG, and also cater to a crowd where it's like people really love these role-playing dungeon games. So how do you appeal to them, making the game broad in scope and making it have a lot of content to come back to and making it fun? Because like I mentioned, they do have like co-op and stuff like that, so they can always surprise the player with what they're doing.
Oh, that's the easy answer. Just make it like a Surge.
Oh no!
I was gonna say, well, if they want to make the Dark Souls of something, well, they should look at Crash Bandicoot and make it
And
the Dark Souls of platformers.
I just hate that logic. Like, it's a Dark Souls sort of game, so we have to make it exactly, dumbed down because people can't even press the jump button and get past one level. So it just blows my mind that they have to make the game easy because of that, and I hope they don't do that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, if anything, like, it would make more sense maybe to try to cater to, like, the Dragon's Dogma, crowd.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people like Dragon's Dogma, and they kind of felt really disappointed that the Japanese managed to get online for Dragon's Dogma, but it never came to the West.
Yeah.
So that would be the best route to go, actually. Think about Dragon's Dogma, what cool concepts you can take. I heard the story is not really that great, so maybe focus on making a good story, but we're going to talk about that with question number 7. So yeah.
Alright, we're done with number 5?
Yup. We can move on to 6.
I'll read 6.
Already?
To add onto the statement, sorry. Above considering how the game is changing, do you think Capcom will keep it keep it free to play? I can't read English. Okay, to say it again, do you guys will think Capcom will keep the game free to play as a free to play model?
I don't. Well, this is hard because Capcom is greedy. So, I think if the game gets way too ambitious, it's gonna be $60. There's no disputing it, in my opinion.
The worst it could be like Street Fighter 5 at launch, because originally Street Fighter 5, as far as I'm concerned, was going to be like a free to play type game, like Tekken Revolution. But they changed it to what it is now.
Yeah, once they start seeing those dollar signs, it's only a matter of time before that changes.
Yeah, I would say, if anything, it would probably be best for them to really, if they haven't taken that into consideration already, they should probably look at it and see, like, okay, are we going to stick with it being an online, like, JRPG MMO type of game where you can play with friends, or are we going to make it a $60 experience and just give it some regular updates depending on how successful and how popular the game is and how active the player base is post launch? And obviously they wouldn't be able to know that until post launch, but I think at least considering whether or not it should stick with the concept of it being a online game, online free to play game versus a $60 experience, I think they really need to look into that.
I think they would have to be really careful going that route, because when you look at most of what free to play games have to offer in terms of the content that's in the game, most of them revolve around the multiplayer aspect. So there really isn't a single player portion of the game that really is all that fleshed out. If there is one, it's minuscule at best. So they could go the MMO route and make it an MMO, but that would be really, really difficult in today's market. There's just so many MMOs out there. It's really, really hard to compete. A lot of these free MMOs will stick around for maybe a year at best, and then the servers will shut down just because the player base is just not there, or the player base is popping at the beginning and then it just dwindles over time. So in that aspect, they'd have to be really, really careful how they approach it, because I could see it being free to play in a single player aspect, but I feel it would kind of meet an almost similar fate to what happened with Escape from Dead Island. And that wasn't even a free to play game. You actually had to buy the damn thing, but it was littered with microtransactions to where chests you had to pay to open and things like that. So I could see them doing something like that. And I think that would really hinder the experience, and the overall appeal of the game would just drop significantly.
Oh, and here's an idea. Don't be like Lawbreakers. No, just
Oh god. Yeah, like, don't try to overhype your game to the point where it's like you're literally insulting every other developer because you want to ride the coattails of their success. I mean, if you use a model and if you're planning to go in a certain direction, at least make your game fleshed out. It's like Daybreaker said, a lot of free-to-play games, they don't have much to offer in terms of content other than like multiplayer experiences. And I think when you lock your game behind multiplayer and something goes wrong and a lot of people say, what the fuck, I can't play my game, servers are down, servers are closed, then it becomes a paperweight. So I think what they have to do is, I don't mind if they actually put value into the game and charge us, just as long as it's reasonable with the content justified for the purchase. So that's what I think about that. Anyone else have any other opinions on 6?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say really quick. I mean, they could make it worse. They could just take a model from Masachika Kawada and just pull a Umbrella Corps.
I personally
pay
think
$40 and then play a stupid online multiplayer game that nobody wants to play. So
yeah, I think any loot box or microtransaction is announced. I think if that gets announced for this game, then it's going to kill all the hype that it even had in the first place. Like, people are going to be like, what the fuck? So that's what I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, and then
oh, sorry, go ahead.
And considering like all the controversy surrounding what happened with Star Wars Battlefront 2, and their loot box shenanigans and everything like that, I would really, really be skeptical and take that into consideration. Really look at things like that and don't go that route. It may seem like you're going to make money, in some aspects, but I just don't think gamers would tolerate it at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't pay off if it's just not going to do well, and if the gamers are like, well, I kind of got screwed off with this game, so fuck this, I'm done, I'm not going to buy this game. And that's exactly what people said when Battlefront 2 really screwed the pooch.
Battlefront 2. Okay, so we're done with question 6?
Yep.
Alright, so who will read number 7?
I'll read the last one. So to conclude this podcast, which element of Deep Down still excites you the most? Examples include randomly generated dungeons, free flow aim with weapons, Assassin's Creed Animus, elements to the story, as the Ravens have to explore historical elements in a digital 15th century or 4-player co-op. I'm kind of interested in this whole, like, you know, like what is the modern or future setting that they have outside of 15th century stuff.
Yeah, it's some weird VR stuff going on with the plot the last time I saw, so that does sound interesting.
Because I remember they were talking about that just a little bit. They were saying, like, it's like your character goes into this world, basically. The world around them is not particularly real per se, but you know, they're exploring it, trying to figure out like mysteries and stuff like that. That I'm actually curious about, because one of the things I'm kind of tired of with Assassin's Creed is that it's been done so much that, like, the things that, like, the fans suggest are being done, even though they said they weren't going to do that stuff, and they don't even and they don't even do it as well or make it as interesting as you would hope it to be.
Tokyo is overdone, Dom.
Yeah, because we've totally had a Tenchu game in the last, like, 10 years or so, right?
No.
Actually, you're not far off about that one, because it should be 10 years now since Tenchu Z, or whatever the last one was.
Yeah. Yes.
All I'm going to say is Ghost of Tsushima is going to make a lot of money. I'm calling it now.
I'm thinking it's sushi. I'm sorry.
That's the same thing I
could
said
use
when
some
I first
sushi.
said it.
I could use some damn sushi, okay?
But I think this stuff is I think all of it is really interesting, especially I will say the one thing that stands out the most is definitely the story material. Like, what are they going to do with the whole Animus VR situation? I think that could create, like, some interesting gameplay moments, especially if, like, something weird happens and the Animus fucks up, and it could create, like, some inverted world. I think that would be pretty cool. And also the randomly generated dungeons. Not every dungeon is going to be the same in Deep Down, so it makes me wonder what would they do with that in particular.
Oh, you know what? You just made me think of something.
Hmm?
So, like, you know how you're saying, like, what if they had, like, some kind of, like, glitch? Well, what if, like, as you're going through a dungeon, right, because it's randomly generated, at one point when you go down a hall and try to, you know, turn around and lead your way out because maybe you got to a dead end.
Yeah.
It's just a sealed off wall or something, kind of like in Evil Within 2, when, like, you know, Sebastian sometimes, like, walks into, or when he walked into the crime scene set in the city hall, kind of like that.
I wouldn't mind if the world fucked with us.
Cut off, yeah. But also too, with, like, the historical elements, like, could you imagine if they made you, like find out more about, like, certain armor pieces and, like weaponry that was used around the time, and then that's how you can, like, unlock different variations and stuff like that in order to progress in, like, power and skill level potentially.
Yeah, that would be a nice way to, like, uncover the plot as well as make you progress through the story and unlock different weapons and abilities. Like, you always want the player to be interactive in what they're doing. So I think adding maybe some subplot to the weapons you get and growing your character from there would be pretty cool. Any opinions on this, Daybreaker?
Yeah, I mean, the overall concept of the game definitely piques my interest, and I'm pretty big into the roguelike style games like Rogue Legacy, Rengoku Tower of Purgatory, Fatal Labyrinth, stuff like that, where the experience can always be different because of the randomly generated assets. They did try to kind of explore that with Bloodborne with the Chalice dungeons, so it'd be interesting to see what they do and having a core gameplay mechanic be the fact that most of the stuff is going to be randomly generated. And it would also make it interesting because, you know, every person's run could be different. You know, you could be talking with, you know, your friends who are playing it, and they could have a completely different experience from what you did, where one part, like, you struggled because you got lost in just a labyrinth of corridors while, you know, your friend or whatever played the exact same portion of the game, but it was like completely different, where they was just like, oh, it was just long hallways and like maybe 1 or 2 rooms off to the side. So I like that aspect.
Yeah, I think if they really just show us more stuff and keep us posted with all the changes they made, it will be a really interesting game. But the only problem is it's been vaporware for like years, so I don't know exactly what Capcom is going to do. I just hope that sometime in the near future, after the Monster Hunter stuff, they decide to come back and revisit the idea of another open world game, and I think that Deep Down will be perfect after that boom is over.
I could see that, yeah.
So, anything to add, Brandon, before we close out to outros?
Not really. The thing that probably just piqued my interest the most is the random dungeons. Because yeah, Bloodborne did do it though, but I want to see how Capcom would do it on a more action-based game than Bloodborne. You know?
Yeah, I would like.
I just wanted to see.
I would like to see that too, to be honest. But they got to show us more shit, so I'm hoping they do. But I guess we can do outros now. Fun podcast, fun little discussions about deep vaporware. So we're gonna do the outros here. So Brandon, please take us off the show, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm the legendary Squatting Bull. You can find me on Twitter at ArcadeMagic514. I know that name's going to change soon at some point. Trust me, I hate it.
He's gonna change it to Squatting Bull, okay? It's gonna be Squatting Bull 42069.
Squatting Indian, something like that.
Okay, Dom, give us your outro.
Alright, you guys can find me as biodevil_Dom on Twitter and YouTube. I did mention this on Twitter that right now, as far as the personal things that I thought were gonna kind of impact stuff for my content, it's going stable at the moment, so I can go back to content at the moment until that stuff gets unstable again, which I am sure it will in the future. But I did just upload a video on Onimusha and Dino Crisis, Capcom talking about bringing those back if the fan demand is there, and I'm working on a couple of other videos in the future, so anybody that's subscribed to me or isn't subscribed to me, you can check out my channel and maybe look forward to that stuff.
Alright, Daybreaker, give us your outro.
You guys can find me at Daybreaker Rain pretty much everywhere. I'm on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. I've got 2 separate YouTube channels, one for Let's Plays, one for just general streams and content, things like that. Currently got all of the 2017 Extra Life campaign videos going up. Those are going up. Final one will be up on the 30th. And then as of then, I'm going to be getting back into streaming and doing more content. I really need to finish Doom 64. That's what I'm going to set my sights on, finishing streaming. And then after that, sky's the limit. I've got a huge backlog and tons of stuff to stream. Of course, my content might kind of come to a standstill right around the middle of the year because I'm going to be moving locations. So that's going to be fun. But I hope to have a lot more equipment and stuff by the time I move, so hopefully we can start cranking out all my old systems and stuff, because there's a bunch of stuff I'd love to stream.
Alright, Panda Man, give us your outro.
Shut up. Alright, you can find me on Twitter at RenOperative_. You can find me on YouTube at Renegade Operative. As for content ongoing, I think I have to post up a discussion on a death battle about Batman and Black Panther. That's going to be fun. I also have some stuff coming up this week. Gonna watch a couple of movies with the guys. Gotham by Gaslight just came out. Also, Thor Ragnarok Held the Loaf and got leaked, so we're gonna be doing that on Friday and Saturday. And it should be a fun time. As for other stuff, I want people to know that we do have like the podcast on the go and mobile. You'll find all the details in the description, but we are on like stuff like iTunes, and I think the other site is Google Play. So if you like listening to the podcast on the go, it will be uploaded there to your convenience. And that's about it. That's all I have to say. I think February we might be doing some more Let's Play stuff because once we do Thor, that's like one slot open. So I'll let you guys stay tuned for that.
Are we gonna get back to Future Soldier? Because we really need to finish that.
Yes, that could be a thing because I think if we do Thor, then that's something open. So I totally don't mind.
Yeah.
Also, James, give us your outro.
He's,
he ain't here. He ain't here.
he's with the maggots right now. So
Damn.
he's just to pull a line from Resident Evil 1, he's sleeping with the ultimate failure.
Damn. He doesn't even like that game.
Oh, really? Damn, that game is so corny and cheesy. You can't help but love it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So I think we're gonna sign off on this podcast. It's been pretty fun. We will talk to you later about future content, and hopefully you all in YouTube land take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Later. No, sleep tight.